Good.
How are you?
I'm just living the dream.
Oh my goodness.
The Senate, please come to order.
Grab one.
We'll take a moment of silence in lieu of a devotional this morning. Thank you. Are there any announcements? We have SR 11, Senate resolution relating to supporting warm and cooperative relations on the part of both the United States and the state of Vermont with Canada, and urging President Trump to remove all tariffs that he has imposed against Canadian imports and to refrain from subsequently imposing any new tariffs against Canadian imports, offered by Senator Baruth and others. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
SR 11, Senate resolution relating to supporting warm and cooperative relations on part of both the United States and the state of Vermont with Canada, and urging President Trump to remove all tariffs that he has imposed against Canadian imports and to refrain from subsequently imposing any new tariffs against Canadian imports.
Now you've heard the reading of the resolution. The chair in its discretion will treat the resolution as a bill and refer it to the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. We now have Senate bills for introduction. S-129, an act relating to the regulation of virtual currency kiosk operators, introduced by Senator Cummings. Please listen to the first reading.
S-129, an act relating to the regulation of virtual currency kiosk operators.
Now you've heard the first reading of the bill, and it is referred to the Committee on Finance. We now have House bills for referral. H-137, an act related to the regulation of insurance products and services. It passed the House on March 11, 2025. Please listen to the first reading.
H-137, an act relating to the regulation of insurance products and services.
Now you've heard the first reading of the bill, and it is referred to the Committee on Finance. We now have H-22266, an act relating to the 340B prescription drug pricing program. It passed the House March 14, 2025. Please listen to the first reading.
H-266, an act relating to the 30B prescription drug pricing program.
Now you've heard the first reading of the bill, and it is referred to the Committee on Health and Welfare. We now have H-463, an act related to technical corrections for the 2005 legislative session. It passed the House March 19, 2025. Please listen to the first reading.
H-463, an act relating to technical corrections for the 2025 legislative session.
Now you've heard the first reading of the bill, and it is referred to the Committee on Government Operations. Orders of the day. Excuse me. Yes. We're passing over S-71. We now have for third reading S-23, an act relating to the use of synthetic media in elections. Are there any amendments before third reading?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are there any amendments before third reading?
My amendment. I'm sorry, I was looking at my constitutional amendment.
Senator from Chip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators would have heard me ask yesterday about a desire for a simple clarification. The stated intent of the bill is one I heartily agree with, that would require disclosures for synthetic media if it were to injure the reputation of a candidate, affect the outcome of an election, or in other ways deceive a voter. And what we discovered together, and I thank the Senate Government Operations Committee for taking up my concern, is that the remedy would only apply in the case of a candidate in question being on the ballot within 90 days. I think what my colleagues heard me say was that you could have other votes, other items on a ballot that would raise this kind of concern and would be appropriate for a synthetic media disclosure and advisory. And so I'm always a fan of taking language away. And the effect of this amendment would be to, okay, so what you're seeing here is the original language, and then you're seeing the amendment below. So you can read the first 7 or so lines are the original language. And my amendment, Mr. President, is to instead insert in lieu thereof, a person shall not within 90 days before an election in Vermont do the following, that is deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media without disclosure. Previously, it had said, shall not within 90 days before an election at which a candidate for elective office will appear on the ballot. So, Mr. President, this simply makes it clear that that 90-day mark before any election is the trigger to seek this kind of disclosure and remedy under the law, rather than just when a candidate is on the ballot in those 90 days. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Chittenden.
Mr. President, I do have a question for the presenter, but I don't want to go before the chair of the relevant committee if this went before that committee.
Senator from Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the Committee on Government Operations did meet with the senator from Chittenden Southeast yesterday and had a great discussion. And we voted unanimously to accept this amendment as a friendly one. Thank you.
Senator from Chittenden.
If I might ask a question of the presenter.
The presenter is interrogated.
I have no problem with this other than I wonder whether the second disclosure includes the first, and therefore do we need both? In other words,
I would love a clarification.
in other words, it seems that the second disclosure includes candidates and people who are not candidates, and the first is specific to candidates. So I'm wondering if we had just the second disclosure, if that wouldn't be enough.
Mr. President, I'm not sure if I'm understanding the senator's question, but this is an insertion in lieu thereof. So only the second instance would be in the bill. The first is being struck.
Got it. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
We haven't done one of these in a while.
The chair wonders if we should pass over this. Oh, we don't need to? Okay. The secretary has informed me we don't usually replicate what has been struck, and that it could have been drafted better, but we can fix it, so we can move forward.
Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill, Senator from Addison,
Thank you, Mr. President. May I inquire of the presenter of the amendment?
you may.
Thank you. I am totally supportive of the intent of this, and I think it's an improvement to the bill. But I'm concerned because in the first one, it is about a candidate for office, and then the deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media is directed at that candidate. in the second one, it's more broad, which I support, but it's open-ended. So it sounds like any synthetic media within 90 days of an election would have to just include that disclosure, even if it's not synthetic media that has anything to do with the election. Because there's not the second reference to an election. So,
Mr. President, I think that's an interesting question for legislative counsel. Before I ask for a recess, I will try to answer the question, which is what I tried to state in my preamble is that this is all guided by intent language around any intention to deceive a voter. So this would all be funneled under the intent to deceive a voter. I think that the committee had a discussion, and I'd look to the senator from Rutland County if he wanted to add to this. But I think it is desirable to capture more potential media that could deceive a voter than what is directed specifically at a candidate, and that would be included in this. If someone put out synthetic media that had nothing to do with an election, I do believe that would fall outside of the purview of this language that's being amended.
okay, I appreciate that, Mr. President. Because this doesn't have line numbers, it's hard to tell you where I'm looking, but in the top, the original, it's deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media of a candidate on the ballot. And it seems to me that the second one should be deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media regarding an election or regarding a candidate or measure on a ballot or something, so that it's referring to what the synthetic media is about, not that it's just synthetic media about puppy dogs or something. I don't know. So I guess I think it needs, and I should know the type of, it's like it needs an article. I can't remember the correct grammar, part of grammar that it is, but it doesn't have anything that it's referring to.
Mr. President, I think at this point it would be wise to take a brief recess to see if it's a drafting issue that can be addressed or what the committee's pleasure would be.
I think we could take a brief recess, or we
Or a
could
long
pass over if it's not imperative that it pass now.
Inquiry?
Senator from Chittenden.
I have my eye on the clock, and I believe if we take a recess and work on this, we'll run into the time for the assembly. So it might be better to just recess for the assembly, have that discussion take place, and all of us just wait 10 minutes to walk into the chamber.
So we will stand in recess
Yes,
until the fall of the gavel.
yeah.
Stand in recess till the fall of the gavel.
a whole bunch of providers under one roof that can integrate repair and you should have to.
Senate, please come to order. Now proceed to the House.
All right.
Yep.